Okay, who's ready to do this? Ready to do this? Do this. Let's do this. My goodness, who's ready to do this? I think we all are ready to do. Oh, you know what? You know what? I forgot a thing. I have to swap out some cables over here because I'm a clown like that. I forgot to connect my iPad because I swapped it for something else yesterday. That's very on brand. Okay, now let's do this. Here we go. Ah, there it is. Okay. All right, I got it. All right. Yay, pro streamer. Let's go. Hey, everybody, how's it going? Welcome. Nice to have you here. This is the Sandwich Corner, our companion show, which we do between every episode of the Sandwich Show. Well, not every episode, but we do it between we're not doing what we're doing this program. And so it's nice to have you here. My name's Dave Medina. You know me as Dave Eating a Sandwich on multiple different platforms throughout the universe. And we're glad to have you here. We have all sorts of bonus content here on the Sandwich Corner. If you've not heard us before, you can catch us right here on YouTube as you're seeing right now. Or you can follow us on any podcast platform. So Spotify, Apple, Amazon, whatever's your flavor, you can find us over there. So tonight on the corner, we have a really fun guest for you, a really good friend of ours, and a big aficionado of soccer, both near and far, but particularly in the Premier League in England. Certainly, a fellow like our friend is going to be a huge fan of the last two tournaments we saw hosted both abroad and over here in Euro 2024 and Copa America 2024 as well. Let's say hello once again to our good friend Parcells falling out. We knew him from the microprincesses.com. We know him today over on the SFC Discord, and we know him here in the corner. What's going on, Parcells? Good to have you back.
How you doing, Dave? Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
I think first time on the Sandwich Corner, so thanks.
Absolutely. I know you don't see anybody yet, but let me fix that right now. Like I don't. Oh, that is peculiar. Okay, give me a sec. I got you. But yeah, it's really good to have you back. Nice to see you too. Although no one else sees you yet, but I'll fix that in a second. Just gotta. I think it's because it's been a minute. The Zoom is so excited to have you here. So let me just click a thing. I'll probably get this back in just a second over here. But the people listening to the show probably can hear you fine, so that's good. Hold on just a second. Is it this one? Yes. That's interesting. I'm not really sure why that happened. It's there we go. Okay, cool.
There we go.
Hey, PFO. It's good to have you. Yeah, it's great. It's been a minute. I was just remembering, like, the last time we had you on the show was when we did the last Euro 2020 Euro Cup. I believe that's if I have my memory correct, it was like 3 years ago. So kind of interesting that we circled back around as it happens again.
Yeah, was that the last time? I think I may have been on a picks show also with maybe Andy and Checker.
Oh yeah. I do remember that.
Like that.
I do remember that. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah. So, needless to say, I mean, you really know the sport. I know you're a big fan of Man U, which is just timely because they're coming to LA pretty soon, like in about a week and a half. It's actually really exciting over here. So, huge scenario for us. I think you know that our mutual friend Kevin down in Torrance is also a big old fan of Arsenal. So, equally as
big Arsenal fan.
Big old Arsenal fan. So, I think it'll be a really fun game. So anyway, to the subject at hand, I mean, two really big tournaments. One of them was absolutely spectacular. You couldn't say anything bad about it, really. The other one, not so much, but still had some pretty great moments and some great teams and some great stories. Parcells, it is cool to have your expertise. I definitely want to explore this entire tournament. I mean, the idea that they'd be on at the same time is really funny to me. Like, were you surprised they decided to do this? Specifically, were you surprised that the Copa decided to do that? I mean, they've definitely had a tough time settling on when they do the tournament, but doing them concurrently, it's interesting. It's interesting. I don't know. What did you think of that scheduling situation?
So you have the two different federations, right? You have CONCACAF and CONMEBOL, who handle North America, Central America, Caribbean, and South America.
Right.
So that's Copa America. And then you have UEFA, who is all of Europe, right?
Yep.
So basically, there is only a small window that they have from the end of one domestic season to the start of the next. So I think the last game in Europe we played was the Champions League final, and I think that was mid-May, late May. I don't have the exact date, and that's probably the same for the South American leagues as well. It's a little different for MLS because MLS runs a similar schedule to our sports leagues here in North America.
Mm-hmm.
But there's that small window in June and July, and then their next leagues start up in early August. So it's really the only time they have a chance to play these tournaments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I guess it amounted to then, having them in the same year, which is, again, maybe it's just things align because we know that the UEFA has always scheduled the Euro tournament every 4 years, and it's been very consistent for a very long time, like all the way back to the 60s actually. So it was really exciting to see that come about. Copa being scheduled, as you mentioned, like I think that's a very good point. Like I did not consider the pro schedules and the other schedules of all the countries involved, and it is true. Like everybody's got this small window to work with. So what it created for the fan is that a really fun day. Like you'd have Euro 2024 all day, all morning, all afternoon, depending on where you lived, and then at night you would have, or in the afternoon at night it would be Copa, and you pretty much had international major soccer on for literally the entire day. And if you lived on the East Coast, it was literally all into the night too.
Yeah, it was great because it was really a down period. That's always a down period for us in North America because that's when NHL and NBA finals end, right? Mid-June.
Right. Yep.
All the way up to the MLB All-Star game and MLB trade deadline and when NFL camps open. So again, it's that small window for us here where there's not a ton of sports going on. So it fit perfectly right in there to take up that space.
Yeah. And within that space, we did have some really exciting moments, like memorable moments you'll remember forever. Like it really started in group play in both tournaments. And the way I think we'll do it tonight, we'll start the first half of the show focusing on Euro 2024. The next half of the show we'll focus on Copa America, and great storylines in both these tournaments. Really, like for all the the embarrassing moments that Copa had, you still did have some really cool teams in there at the same time. So it wound up being good. In fact, the final was a pretty good game. Like it was, I thought that Colombia really gave Argentina everything there in that match. But we'll get to that later. I don't want to talk about that now because but we'll get to it. It was a good game for sure.
Yeah. Both tournaments were not short on drama.
Yeah.
You can say what you want about the quality of soccer that was played in some matches and whatnot, but the drama was certainly there.
Yeah, 1,000%. So we'll start then by going to group play in Euro 2024. And so in the group play, we had just so many wild moments. I mean, well, Germany was probably the least, dramatic of the teams because they were the host country. We expected Germany to go very, very far. Truly, they did. They did a great job. Like, they had a really good tournament. So they really took care of business in the group stage. Nothing to really report there. It starts to get exciting in Group B. Spain, the other big favorite in the Euros, did their job, but the battle between Italy and Croatia was crazy. And if everyone remembers, Italy really weren't playing that great through most of this tournament. And it's still unbelievable to think that in the 7th minute of stoppage time against Croatia, they saved their season with a goal. I mean, you can't make it truly a buzzer beater. I mean, that game was unbelievable. Like, Croatia really was I feel bad for Croatia fans. Like they really deserved that game. Like they really had just owned them. I mean,
Yeah,
what a moment.
this was a really tough group because they had
Yeah.
three quality teams: Spain, Italy, and Croatia. Um, and yeah, like you said, Italy got through on that late goal by the skin of their teeth,
Yeah.
or they would not have moved on.
Yep. Yeah. It was amazing. I mean, you know, I mean, from that standpoint, it was great, and certainly for matchups going forward, it was great. We're gonna get into what happened after that shortly, but you know,
Yeah.
it just goes to it's a really it was a very vulnerable Italy this year for sure. Italia very vulnerable for no question about it. Then you go to Group C. You had England and Denmark and Slovenia. Slovenia was a really nice like underdog story this year. I mean, what a great story that was. They were just fantastic. And England like was somehow able to advance despite barely scoring in the group play. It's just like, man, you wouldn't think that people with this many like EPL guys, Premier League guys, and other famous players would struggle to score even once during any of these matches. But
Yeah, 100%. And I'm sure we'll do a deeper dive into England
yeah,
in a little bit when we move on to the knockout rounds. But but yeah, I mean, them only scoring two goals in three matches was not expected. And like you said, Slovenia basically came out of nowhere to get through to the knockout rounds, and they played England really tough
yeah,
um, in that last game, a 0-0 draw. And yeah, and Denmark played England well. We'll talk about England
oh yeah,
because they were supposed to be one of the favorites, and they did make it to the finals.
hmm
But there was something wrong with that team. But we'll get to that
oh
in a
yeah,
bit.
no question. We will get to that. We will get to all the scenarios with England because like it was just always tough to wrap your arms around them for that reason. Like you would think that they would be so much better in this tournament than they were, and
100%.
yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, so kind of in a similar vein, you were thinking France was kind of not fully as dominant as you would expect. But to be fair, I think Mbappe was had the face mask, so I think he wasn't 100% during most of this tournament.
Yeah, and Mbappe certainly struggled, but for the quality that France has, I think they only scored one goal in the run of play.
Yeah,
There were a couple of penalty kicks, a couple of own goals. Um, they couldn't score either, and
yep,
they were one of the favorites to win this, and to not win this group. So Austria wins this group, and Austria was one of my favorite teams in this tournament to watch. They weren't a team that was supposed to do much. They're coached by a guy named Ralph Ragnick, who was an interim coach for Man United a couple of years ago, and the England press ran him out of Manchester. Said he was a fool, didn't know what he was doing, and he was a forefather. He's a German fellow, and he was a forefather to a lot of the top German coaches right now: Jurgen Klopp, um, Nagelsmann, Thomas Tuchel. They all learned under him. And Man U fans were really excited that he was coming to Man U on an interim basis. And for some reason or another, players didn't listen to him. The media really came down on him. And he was done after about 4 or 5 months.
wow,
He took the Austria job, and he did with Austria, which he took the Austria job, and he did with them what people expected him to do with Man United.
hmm
And they just played a beautiful brand of soccer, up and down the pitch on their front foot, attacking all the time. It was great to watch.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. They definitely opened some eyes, like going through the through this stage and moving on forward. So that's a really cool story. Netherlands kind of in a interesting, weren't the Netherlands the one? No, I think it was France that one that couldn't score in regulation very much. But Netherlands are kind of similar, but kind of not. I mean, they did do pretty well in the group play, to be fair.
Yeah, yeah. The Netherlands are always kind of there.
Yeah,
They always have some good players. They never seem to be able to get over the top, so to say. Um, you know, but yeah, they qualified. So this year's tournament was the first time they ever had some third place teams go through. Usually, it was, if I recall correctly, it was a 32 team tournament, and the top two, it was 8 teams in 4 groups, 4 teams in 8 groups, and the top 2 teams would go through, and then you'd have 16 teams clean going to the round of 16, quarter, semi, so forth. This year, they had 6. How many groups did they have? What's the last group here, Dave?
Oh, let's go back. Let's go back. Poland.
I think it was 6 groups of 4, right?
Oh, I see. Group F.
F was the final group.
Yeah. So then.
Yeah, F was the final group.
Yeah, 6.
So they had 20. So they had 24 teams total, and to get to the round of 16, they had to take third place teams. They've never done that before.
Oh wow.
So
yeah.
So you really didn't have to do a ton to make it out of your group. And the Netherlands, with 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss, found their way out.
Yep, they did indeed. And it's interesting to note that the level to which you needed to succeed in order to get out of the group stage isn't as high, and yet some of the teams really couldn't take advantage of that. We already talked about 2 of them.
Right.
So very fascinating scenario. So let's go to Group E. Nothing really for me to say, but Belgium is always a fun watch, so I do enjoy seeing them play. Although maybe not as potent offensively as I remembered. I'm not sure. What did you think of Group E?
Yeah, well, those, Belgium only scoring 2 goals in group play is certainly disappointing. And again, they finished in second place and found their way out. So Romania was another team that was awfully surprising, winning the group and getting out. They played some nice soccer through this tournament as well.
Yep. Oh, very much so. Yeah, another one of those great success stories, feel good stories. Like Romania was definitely pretty solid in this tournament. Let's go to Group F, and here, talk about a surprise story. Georgia, like who would have expected them to not only get out of group play, but geez, the things they were doing after that. Wow, they were really pushing teams to the limit. And Turkey, right. Same thing. Like I thought I think I remember them being pretty decent. So there are definitely some surprises as a result of this new format, as you were talking about, Parcells. But
yeah, like you said, Georgia was a big surprise.
Yeah.
But as you can see here, a lot of goals scored in this group. 17 goals.
Yep.
In the group play, and Turkey played some of the most exciting games because I think I think a lot of people saw that them being an underdog, and they got out of group play into the knockout rounds, and their games were terrific.
Yeah. I mean, certainly there was a talk about how their defense isn't that good, but at the same time, their wide open play did seem like to create a lot of excitement, and we certainly saw that in the knockout stage too. I mean, just really bad. Just they were very, very, very good at scoring in the Euro 2024. Portugal, I mean, they did their job. I mean, in group play, I mean, we'll have more to say about them in later rounds, but they did their thing.
Right.
So.
Yeah, exactly. They took care of business in group play, won the group, but their problem with team selection and what ultimately cost them, in the quarters, really came back to bite them.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we're gonna talk about the very well known Cristiano Ronaldo, who is, as we saw in this tournament, long in the tooth and past his prime.
Yeah,
it was hard to watch sometimes to try to force him into the offense. We'll talk about that in more detail in a little bit, but that's the group stage. So Everyone advances. We go to the knockout stage, and this is where a lot of crazy things happen. I mean, where do you want to start with this? Because, like, if you talk about, for example, England, again, getting by in the skin of their teeth against Slovakia, we thought for sure that was going to be one of the biggest upsets of the year. And
Right.
somehow they get the goal to tie, and not even like a couple minutes into the extra time, they score another goal and take over the game completely. It is crazy to see how England could look so half-assed and lackluster and lacking energy during most of the game, and then like when it almost seems like it's too late, they put it together to get a goal. So like it's just that's crazy. You had the Austria-Turkey game, which we were just talking about. Like that was a really exciting match. Like it was really good. And then Italy loses to Switzerland, which again, like by that point, I don't think is really a surprise. Italy's really been struggling the last 3 years. It's crazy to see how much they've fallen recently. Let me just give it back to you just to recap the knockout stages. There's just a lot to talk about here.
Yeah. So just to finish your Italy point is that that Italy beat England in the Euros in 2020, which
Yeah,
was because of COVID was played in 2021. After that, they didn't qualify for the Olympics in 2024. So they've they've kind of been in a downward cycle um, a bit, but they're still considered a top a top country um, in Europe. So taking a bigger picture of this knockout round stuff with these 16 teams and taking the deeper dive into England right now. England had the easiest draw they could possibly have to get to the finals.
yeah,
They were on the opposite side of the bracket of Spain, of Portugal, of France, of Germany. They they had such an easy path, England, to get to the finals. Everybody else had to knock each other off,
yep,
right? The teams England played, as we talked about, played Slovakia, Switzerland, Netherlands before they got to Spain. Not world beaters, right? Nobody is losing any sleep over Slovakia, Switzerland, and the Netherlands.
yeah, yeah,
So they had it all set up for them. They just could never find their game. They have, in my opinion, the most talent in the world
hmm
on their roster. They have the player of the year in Spain. They have the player of the year in England. They have the top scorer in Germany. And I forget if Harry Kane won player of the year in Germany, but they have immense talent. And for a few years now, they've just played a style of soccer that doesn't fit their talent level. They should be playing on the front foot, pressing all the time, holding the ball in possession, and they just don't do it.
yeah.
And the England media, the England fans have been all over. There's been a huge debate in England about their manager, Gareth Southgate, and who just happened to resign yesterday. I don't know if you saw
He
that.
actually
Um,
resigned. I did not know that.
yeah, he resigned
Wow.
yesterday. I think either way, he was probably going to resign.
Yeah,
But his style was for them to sit back. It took England to be behind to get on their front foot and push the ball forward and play their way. I don't have the number of games that they fell behind here and then ended up tying and then taking the lead or just ending up tied. But they needed to fall behind to go play an energetic style.
yeah.
And they had this tournament all set up for them, and they just couldn't come through. They to me they and Portugal is a similar story, right?
Yep.
So let if you don't mind getting into Portugal right now.
No, I don't. This is a great idea.
So Portugal was similar to England. England England, there was something wrong with Harry Kane. Either he was injured or he wasn't fit. But he was a disaster this tournament. not only would he not be playing in the box, he would be coming up into midfield and taking space from midfielders. And England was so disjointed. Portugal was the same way with Cristiano Ronaldo. You know, love Ronaldo for everything he did, possibly the greatest player of all time, well past his prime. And the problem with these teams like Portugal and England is that you need a strong manager to take charge of these teams. And when these guys aren't playing well, to sit them down and go with better options that you have. And neither Southgate or Roberto Martinez of Portugal had the gumption to do that.
Yeah.
And that's what these teams needed. Like, you know, you were involved. We were talking on Discord about Portugal.
Yeah.
And the fact that Ronaldo needed to sit. He needed to come out for younger players. They have a player named Diogo Jota who plays a similar position. He plays a little higher up, and he has younger legs. Ronaldo can't press. Jota can press. You know, turn over your opposition.
Yep. And
Portugal just would not opt for that. I mean, you had Ronaldo playing into extra time, simply, I think, for penalties. And, you know, if you're going to play for penalties, I guess that's what you do, because he had always been a top penalty taker. I don't think he is anymore. But then you're kind of doing away with the first 120 minutes if you're just sitting there and playing for penalties. And you could win the game in the first 90 or in the final 30. And Portugal just Ronaldo was bigger than the team, and that's not how you run a national team.
Yeah,
not at all.
Exactly. I mean, it's not. I mean, I just don't. Like you said, if you want to win, sometimes you have to be willing to make these kind of decisions. I can understand maybe there's me. What I don't know is what the Portugal media pressure would have been like if the coach did sit down Ronaldo, but it's not like these things haven't happened before in history of international football, right? So I don't know. It was obvious to all of us, you know, just us guys watching the game on the Discord or wherever, you know, he didn't have it. I'm like, you got to sub him out at some point in the second half at the minimum, if not sooner. Or even just don't start him, or just make him a bench player. Like,
that's it. I don't even. Most people don't think he should have even started.
Yeah.
Right. And that's when a manager just has lost all sorts of control.
Yeah.
Because, you know, not only, like, you know, dopes like us see that, his teammates see it. His teammates know that he's not performing. Right. So you're doing a disservice to the entire squad.
Oh, no doubt about it. It was unfortunate. It's really unfortunate because I think Tom, you said this, and I think our friend Tom in New Jersey said this too. They played better without him. It was clear,
without a doubt.
Yeah,
without a doubt. If they sat Ronaldo, they would have gone. You know, where did they go out in the 8? I think in the round of 8.
Yep.
You know, they have so much talent on that Portuguese team that they could have found their way to play Spain in the semifinals.
Yeah. And here's the thing. If we go over to the bracket again, they lost in a penalty shootout 5-3. And there was no score in the rest of the game. So it's like, gosh, you know, they couldn't have made that thing more gettable for you. Mbappe was hurt. I think he had to leave the game, didn't he? Didn't Mbappe have to, or was that the second one? Or was that the one against Spain? I'm not sure which one it was, but at some point,
yeah, he left one of those games. But yeah, you're in a 0-0 game.
Yeah,
do something as a manager to affect the game. Make a change personnel wise, or make a change tactically.
Yeah,
that's your job, right? If you just sit there on your hands and you let the same thing happen game in, game out, you're doomed to fail.
Yep.
And that's what happened to Portugal. So Portugal played Slovenia in the round of 16, and that was another 0-0 game.
It was.
Right?
Yeah.
So Portugal didn't score at all in the knockout rounds.
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, right? Like, yeah. Because the penalty kicks aren't really goals. They're just kind of like, that's just a shootout.
No, it's just a way to determine a winner.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of like a shootout in hockey.
It's incomprehensible that you can be a team with that kind of talent and win games like that without actually scoring anything. It's incredible. It's incredible. Like, so clearly this was a poorly mismanaged situation, or poorly managed situation, I should say.
Yeah. They and England are in the same boat. The England manager as well had perfect opportunities to change his lineup. He pretty much kept with the same 11 every game. He made one change in midfield, tried a couple things, and he had a defender suspended, so he had to make a change for that, but brought him right back. Other than that, he kept the same guys starting. They weren't connecting, and he wouldn't make subs until like the 70-minute mark. And it's like, what are you doing? I mean, what are we doing here?
Yeah, what are we doing here? It was tough to watch that. Just a quick pivot. Netherlands and Turkey. Wow, that was exciting because you had a beat there where Turkey went up early, 1-0. At that point, did you feel like the Netherlands were in any kind of trouble, or did you feel like they were still going to find a way to come back anyway? At that point,
I didn't think that they were in trouble. I thought Netherlands could get back into the game. I thought it was, so many of these matches were so tightly played.
Yeah.
That's another one that could have gone to extra time and a shootout as well.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely. And I think, just if I could look, is there a way for me to? Oh, it's over here. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I believe that's right. It looked like it was well on pace to going to extra time in the round of, I think it's the quarterfinals. Yeah, let me see. When was that other goal scored? Maybe not exactly. It was 76th minute. Okay, so not exactly. It was an own goal. That's right. I forgot about that. Remember that?
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Damn. Wow.
Yeah, those two goals were right on top of each other, right?
Yeah. It was
Dutch goals.
Yeah, so in the 70th and 76th, they're right against one another. That happened fast. Wow. So, it's heartbreaking for Turkey, but still really, really great run for that selection. So, like, really, really well done for that country. Okay, so that pretty much covers most of the things. We have already established how irritating it was watching England during most of this. I mean, their match with Switzerland wasn't great. So we'll move ahead to the semis. Yeah. Spain, France was touted. It had all the billing. Actually, let me go back to Spain, Germany for a second there. That was a pretty solid upset by Spain. I thought Germany was favored. I'm not exactly sure. They may not actually have been favored. You know what? Now that I think of it, I think Spain may actually have been getting better odds because they're that good. They are that good.
Yeah, because Spain was playing the best soccer coming out of the group rounds.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And Germany being the host team, I think a lot of people thought, Germany could move on, but Spain was playing the best football and soccer. But Spain, I know we're talking about this game, but Spain just continued to play, throughout the knockout rounds and into the finals, the best soccer of the tournament, and was a well-deserved winner.
Oh, for sure.
Of it all.
Yeah, for sure. And they're doing it with a 16-year-old, now 17-year-old player who had just lit the world on fire. And that one goal that he scored was really, really good. And it's like, you feel like, well, if someone's only 16 years old, he can't be that good yet. Oh, he was that good. He was so good. He was playing. He was just keeping up with everybody else. It was really great. It's great to see.
And he's an incredible talent. Did you see the picture of when he was a baby, Messi holding him?
Oh, I did not see that. That's pretty interesting.
Oh yeah, that made the rounds on social media, and I think on a couple of telecasts. Yeah, when he was a little baby. So Yamal plays for Barcelona,
Hmm.
and it was back when Messi was with Barcelona.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know the connection between the families, but it was a great picture that made its way around.
Oh, that's really cool. That's super cool. Yeah, I like it a lot. Um, but yeah, just really impressive stuff. I mean, and it's true. Like they not only are they so talented, they're so great at scoring, but their ability to control possession is really good. And when they do have a lead, they have generally been very good at like just maintaining the pace of the game, like just dictating the pace of the game, and holding back, not making mistakes. Their passing is just Spain's passing is just so impressive to me. Like I was
Yeah,
thrilled with it.
you're 100% right on the dictating the pace of the game. Spain has probably the best defensive midfielder in
Mm,
um, in the world, a guy named Rodri, who came off at halftime of the championship game of the finals with an injury. He plays defensive midfield for Manchester City, and he's part of the reason why they're so good and control play. And he's probably going to be one of the few players up for the Ballon d'Or, which is Player of the Year um, in for all of FIFA.
that's a huge honor. Wow, huge honor, huge
Yeah,
honor. Yeah. So needless to say, Spain did beat France in what had been a very highly touted match, and it was a very good game all in all. I was looking forward to that. I was counting out the minutes of that one. It was a really, really good, really thrilling game. I guess I never really thought that France. I really never thought Spain was necessarily challenged. Although I've got to look at this and see the sequence of when the goals happened. Um, yeah. Oh, did France did go up early? That's right. Yeah, but Parcells, you watch that, you see, Mulani throw the goal in, but it's like, yeah, but Spain can answer. They're also good at countering, and on top of everything else, like so. I'm like, I didn't feel like that France really was that safe with a 1-0 lead early in the game.
yeah, exactly, and especially because I think that Colomawani goal was France's first and only goal during the run of play in the entire tournament.
Yep.
I think I have that correct.
No, that they were
So
talking about that a lot. Like they did not score very much in the run of play at all. In fact, yeah. They did have one against Belgium, I think. Here, if you see this, um, when was that though?
no, that's an own goal.
Oh, so they're not counting the own goal. Yeah, you can't count an own goal there. Yeah, you're very
Right.
much right there.
Yeah. So, and I think that's what everybody was so surprised about with France because France has so much talent. And I know Mbappe was hurt and the broken nose. Um, but outside of Mbappe, they still have a ton of talent. They have talented strikers, great midfield. Um, you know, I don't know how they only scored one goal in the run of play. That's amazing. So back to that match. So yeah, when Colomawani scores, you're like, okay, I'm not sure how if France is going to get on the board again. Spain's got 80 minutes,
Yeah.
to tie it up or take the lead, and didn't take him too long to do it.
No, it didn't. 21st minute, Yamal gets the goal, and I think that's what we were talking about, like that amazing goal. What a fantastic!
That was a worldie. That was amazing.
Yeah, such a
Yeah, what a
beautiful.
talent that kid is.
I'm so impressed by what I've seen so far. I'm very exciting prospects for his career for sure. And then Olmo, who's
Yeah.
been is a massive part of this tournament as well, with the goal to go ahead and the 25th minute, just amazing stuff. So yeah, like it never. I think as you look back in perspective, it never felt like this was. It always felt like it was Spain's game to lose, and they did their job. Like they kind of took care of it. As you said, like France just getting their one goal, and you're like, well, okay, but if you don't get another one, you're not gonna keep that lead. And surely enough, like Spain did not waste any time taking over the game. Let's see. Okay, so Netherlands, England. Anything you want to mention about that?
No, just another match where England didn't play all that great. They got a fortunate call on that Kane
Absolutely.
penalty. That was I didn't think that was really a penalty. And then they get the Ollie Watkins goal, and they finally sub Kane off, and the two subs connected, Cole Palmer and Ollie Watkins, to score. And this is the thing about England, is that these are two guys who should probably be starting, and instead of trying to do all their work in the final 15, 20 minutes, should have had 90 minutes to try to do stuff. But Watkins got that late goal. All of England went berserk.
Yep.
You saw that video of the Killers concert. Did you see that? Did you see that?
I did not see the Killers video. That's pretty cool.
So the Killers were playing a concert at the O2 in London.
Mm-hmm.
They stopped their show to watch the final couple of minutes of the England-Netherlands match.
Mm-hmm.
And right after, the whistle blew, the final whistle, they went right the place was going crazy, and they went right into Mr. Brightside.
Oh, that's great. Crowd must have been into it that night. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool.
I mean, that's a band that gets it. That's really neat.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a song that's going to get people fired up anyway, but after a win in the country that they're playing, and in the country that's playing the game, pretty good.
Yeah.
That's great execution.
Yeah, definitely cool.
So yeah, I mean, Watkins was an amazing, with an awesome shot too. It was really from the right side. It was really good. So
yeah, tough angle.
Yeah, tough angle for real.
Right into hit the inside of the post and went in. Great shot.
Absolutely. So that brings us to the final, Spain versus England. There was no score at halftime, which I'm not really surprised at. Usually teams are going to be slow. They're going to try to feel each other out. So you're like, well, this is going to pick up in the second half. Did it ever? Williams had the first goal. There was an answer by England, which tied it up. But then Spain put it away very late in the game, in the 86th minute. And, as I would just say that Spain proved to be the better team in that match. But feel free to share your thoughts on that incredible final.
Yeah. So like you said, nothing happened in the first half. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Rodri of Spain, who picked up an injury in the first half, did not come out for the second half. So that changes the whole game, or should change the whole game for England, because as mentioned, this is the best defensive midfielder in the entire world. So England should have been on their front foot, because the best defensive midfielder is no longer there, and make some tactical adjustments. And what happens? Spain comes down and scores 2 minutes into the second half. And it's like, it's another, what are you doing?
Wow. I mean,
yeah, it's like it's dumbfounding with this England team.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then they bring on Cole Palmer again, the one who made the pass to Ollie Watkins. Palmer scores a beautiful goal in the 79th minute.
70. I see 73rd. So
73rd minute. Okay. Ties it up. It's like, we could be going to extra time here, and maybe the kicks, and then Spain gets the late goal.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Was indeed. And just a complete team effort by the Spaniards. And a great day for the whole country. Earlier in the day, Carlos Alcaraz won Wimbledon over Novak Djokovic, and it was just a phenomenal sports day for the people of Spain. It was kind of a fun time following all that, watching all this stuff, all these things. And if you're a tennis fan, throwing Wimbledon into the mix alongside this tournament and Copa America, I mean, what a month! It's just a hell of a month for sports. So, yeah, I mean, what can you say about Spain that hasn't already been said? I imagine there's going to be a lot of interest in a lot of the coaches and the players and different squads, and that's going to segue us to a future topic on this program we'll get to in a few minutes. But The coach of Spain is going to be a hot commodity. I mean, there's going to be interest in that coach for sure. We'll see if another team decides to take on that coach, or will he stay with España? I don't know, but what a complete. They have been playing so well. I guess you could say they've been playing well the entire year, but certainly from the auspices of Euro 2024, they had the most consistent play the entire tournament. They've been great from beginning to end. They were the most organized. They were the best coached. Their timing of their substitutions was good. And as you mentioned, the defense, because of that great midfield, that great defender, I mean, they really had it on both ends of the field, or both ends of the pitch, shall I say, during the entire tournament.
Yeah, and you could see with them, they were one of the few teams from start to finish. You could see they had a style of play. You know, they wanted to possess the ball. They wanted to be on the front foot. Midfielders interchanging, filling space. And the thing about this Spain team is that they're going to be around for a while. You know, Nico Williams, the left wing, I think is only 23. You talked about Yamal, who just turned 17. So you have two guys at 23 and 17. That's, they be playing 3 more World Cups together. That's crazy.
That is crazy. What an exciting time for Team Hispanic. So let me comment on the coach then. I mentioned there was a tease in the headlines about Luis de la Fuente, the coach of the Spain national team, expressing interest in the U.S. national team. Do you think he would take that job, or would he continue to ride the wave with the Spanish? And would the Federation even want to get rid of him at this point? I mean, who would want to get rid of the coach at this point? It's a very interesting situation.
I don't think they would get rid of him. And I'm sure we're going to get into the U.S. team in a little bit, but I don't know what the U.S. team could offer him that he's not already getting or will be getting in Spain for winning the Euros.
That's just,
I couldn't see. I don't know if that's just a rumor or somebody from U.S. soccer throwing that out there, but I don't know if I could see that happening.
Yeah, I agree. I don't. I just don't see what's in it for him. I mean, you've got the best situation literally in international soccer right now. In fact, you've got such momentum to take this into the World Cup in 2 years. I think, and as you said, all those folks are they're going to be around for a while. You can't be in a better spot right now to win a World Cup than to have this team playing really at the peak of, really playing their A game right now. And you want to, I feel like why would you walk away from that? Like, it's just one, right? Like,
100%. I can't see it making any sense.
Yeah. And I don't even think money could be a factor here. I feel like Spain are very well funded. I
mean, they have two of the richest clubs in the world in Real Madrid and Barcelona.
Yeah.
So there's money in their soccer world over there.
Yeah, that absolutely. So that wraps it for Euro 2024. I mean, just an amazing time. I've had so much fun following this tournament. I feel like I've gotten to know a lot more of the tournament than I did the previous time, and it has been a thrill to watch this. I will give I don't know what you thought of the Fox coverage of this tournament specifically. I thought it was pretty good. I actually thought it was pretty good. I thought the studio people were great. I mean, Alexi Lalas is Alexi Lalas. What are you going to do? But everybody else was pretty good.
Yeah, I thought everybody else was pretty good. I thought the announced teams were really good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think even out of I remember 3 of the teams. I think maybe one of the weakest people was Landon Donovan. I wasn't a huge Landon Donovan guy.
Yeah.
But Ian Dark is a tremendous soccer play-by-play guy. Yep. And I think he just carried Landon Donovan. There was one team, I think it was Darren Fletcher and Owen Hargreaves, who used to play for England. And Darren Fletcher is the guy, and I don't know if you saw the clip, the English broadcaster who called the end of the Mets Phillies game when they did the London series. He had that amazing call of the final play
Oh
of that
yeah,
of
that's
the Mets win.
yeah. That's been talked about a
Yeah,
lot.
so I think he was on the third team
Hmm.
of this tournament, and I thought they were the best team. But I think all in all, yeah, I thought the announced teams were really good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Darren Fletcher's going to move on up over time because he was a very exciting voice to watch. It was really he's very good. Yeah, he's very very good.
Yeah,
Um, so tremendous stuff, and I think just looking at it, Fox was covering both of these tournaments, and it seemed evident they made the decision to focus their best assets towards Euro 2024. I think that's a good decision. I don't know what the TV ratings were for these tournaments, so I can't speak on that. But for the quality of the telecast, I thought they did a really good job here. All in all, okay. I mean, what do you think of Jules Breach as a studio host? I thought she was terrific. I've never heard of her before, but she did a
yeah,
good job.
yeah. I don't, I didn't know much about her. For the Premier League, Rebecca Lowe
Hmm.
with NBC is terrific. Kate Abdo with Paramount and CBS, she's excellent as well doing Champions League. I never had heard Jules before, but I thought she was pretty good.
Yep, same. And so another good decision by Fox Sports. So yeah, that wraps it for Euro 2024. Just more thrills, and it's actually a really great teaser to the World Cup coming up in a couple years. So that should be great. Where is the World Cup? It's going to be in North America's and Mexico and Canada. I mean, North America and Central America ish. Basically, Basically, the countries we live in, like USA,
Yeah.
Mexico, and Canada.
Oh, Canada. Yep.
Yeah. So that segues us to Copa America, which took place in the U.S. this year, and a lot of dubious moments in this tournament, but at the same time, also a lot of really good stories. So, I mean, I don't know how much time we were going to spend on just how poorly managed a lot of it was, but with that all said, I think it was a very fun idea, something that had been a long time coming, bringing in the union of CONMEBOL and CONCACAF for this tournament. I mean, I had dreamed about this for many years, and it was great to finally see it happen. But the timing was just really terrible for both Mexico and Team USA because like they caught them when they were really they're really having some down years. It's just unfortunate timing. It was clear that Mexico was not going to go far in this tournament. US, on the other hand, man, did they squander an opportunity or what? Holy cow!
Yeah. I mean, where do you want to start with that? So, when 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 you look at that group was U.S., Uruguay, Panama, and Bolivia, right?
Yep.
So when you first see that group, you say, all right, Uruguay's pretty good. They're top 10 in FIFA. And Panama can easily be handled, and Bolivia is terrible. So you're thinking, okay, US gets out of the group, and you just take it game by game from there. But nobody could see what happening. I mean, it it could not have been a worse result in the short term and the long term for the USA. Obviously, the short term, having this Copa America on your own soil and not being able to get out of the group. And for long term, you fire your manager. You need to bring a new manager in to prepare for 2 years for the World Cup in 2 years, and the World Cup is on your own soil. And you needed to use this tournament as a stepping stone to the World Cup. And they failed. They failed miserably. And they couldn't fail any worse at this. And it's just an embarrassment all around. It's an embarrassment for US soccer. It's an embarrassment for the players involved for not being able to overcome what happened in the Panama match. Just an epic fail all around.
It really was such an embarrassment. I mean, it's a team that just I mean, you don't want to use things like they didn't have the fire or they weren't they weren't ready for the moment, but they didn't, and they did.
Well, but here's the thing, Dave, about not having the fire is that a lot of people talk about this U.S. group of players as the golden generation, the best players we've ever had, the best team we've ever had. But this team didn't have the heart or the tenacity or the grit of some of the teams from like 10 years ago that had, Landon Donovan and Clint Dempsey and Michael Bradley and those teams back in the mid 2000s. And that's what this team needed. I don't want to say they didn't have heart. I think that's really a condemnation, but they didn't have that extra meanness to them. And you need to play with an edge.
Yeah.
And they didn't have that edge whatsoever.
Yeah. And so a lot of the blame for that is going to be on the coach, Greg Berhalter. Not surprisingly at all. You already mentioned it. They fired him right after the tournament. I mean, there was some rumblings about this happening anyway. So it seemed evident that this is not the fit that they wanted for this selection. And so what went wrong? Why did they select him in the first place? What was the argument?
So they actually brought Berhalter back. They had given him almost, a timeout or a pause after the World Cup because he made some comments that were recorded at a talk that he had, that he made reference to one of his players, Gio Reyna, in not a great light. Some controversy developed out of that with Reyna's family and some accusations back and forth. So U.S. Soccer hit a pause. I think Berhalter's contract was up, and they did a search for a new head coach. And they said it was an exhaustive search. But somehow this exhaustive search came back to Berhalter. And they rehired him, and they gave him a new contract. And coming into this, they had some ups and downs as a team, but some of his selections and some of his substitutions, especially in the Panama game, were just mind-boggling. So just to cover that Panama game, early in the game, Timothy Weah, knucklehead play, picks up a red card, deserved. You can't do what he did. U.S. goes down a man. U.S. goes up 1-0 in the match. And at that point, all you have to do is see the match out, or you make a proper substitution to play a little more defensive or control the ball. And this is Panama we're talking about. They're not playing Uruguay. They're not playing Colombia. They're not playing Argentina. This is Panama. They give up a goal right away. Then you got to play for a draw. They give up a late goal in the 70-something minute, and Panama wins 2-1. And he just did not manage that game properly, as a well-schooled manager should.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what cost him his job, was that match right there.
Yeah. I agree with you completely as far as them losing their tournament hopes there. They had another game. They played Uruguay later, but that's where they lost the tournament. You need to win that game. There's no excuse there. Like, they're clearly better than Panama is, and it's just like, you can't let that happen. Even with someone with a red card, you still, and they went up 1-0 anyway. Like you have
100%.
It's just incomprehensible how that could happen.
Yeah, just see the game out.
Yeah.
Just see the game out with 10 men against Panama. It's very doable, and they just couldn't do it.
Every other team that plays in either of these tournaments would do that. I mean, and we would sometimes criticize teams for doing that. Like, oh, they're playing not to lose. But when you have a 1-0 lead against a team that doesn't have a good offense, it's the perfect strategy, especially down a man. Like,
Right.
Ridiculous.
Exactly right.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. So ultimately it costs him his job.
Yeah.
And now U.S. soccer is behind the 8 ball, having to find a new manager leading into a World Cup in 2 years on your own soil.
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough. I think that if for people who are more more casual observers of the sport, I think I would liken it to when you fire a coach with like when you're in the middle of the recruiting season, basically, like a college coach. College football coach. So, it's like what's the point of that? The recruiting cycle just started in December. Like, how is that? You're gonna set yourself back by doing that. It's kind of the same idea.
Right.
It's not a good look.
And like we talked about, this Copa America was the perfect opportunity to springboard into that World Cup. Now, nobody was talking about winning this tournament, but talking about a good showing.
Yeah.
Get people excited about the World Cup that's here in 2 years. And it just went south.
Parcells, it is embarrassing when you have, for any host country to not make it out of group play. Freaking South Korea made it out of group play in the World Cup when they hosted it. How could the U.S. not do the same thing? Like,
it's mind-numbing stuff.
Yeah, really is. I mean, as far as group play the rest of the way, let's go and take a look at it. I don't think there's a lot else to get into. I mentioned Mexico. They just didn't have the horses this year. There's not much to talk about with that. Like, and then Brazil did their job, but they're getting increasingly less and less. How do you describe this? Brazil used to be always a lock. Used to be a huge favorite to win pretty much anything. When I was growing up, it was pretty much them and everybody else in South America, right? They were amazing. Ronaldinho, other Ronaldo. What a team, right? These guys seem a little more ordinary than I remembered, and I don't have a lot to say about it. But you look at what these scores in the group play, it's like, yeah, I mean, the offense isn't what it was, at least against these teams. I don't know if they're just in a transitional phase, but it just seems like since when did they lose 7-1 against Germany? When was that? Was that 2010 or 2014? I'm trying to remember what year that was, but
not sure off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But to your point, I mean, you're 100% right. This isn't your traditional Brazil team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they might be the fourth best team in South America.
That's a wild
behind Argentina,
mm-hmm.
Colombia, and Uruguay.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. It's wild to say a statement like that, but it's completely accurate in this case for sure. And you definitely are.
Yeah, I mean, I just now I was almost like cringing a little bit saying it. Like,
yeah,
am I going a little too far here? Or
yeah,
but it's possible that they're top 4 instead of being the best. So they've become a little more ordinary. I mean, I think they still might be a top 10 in the world, but they're closer to 10 than they are 1.
Oh, for sure. Things have definitely changed here. And it's like you said, for me, it's hard for me to wrap my head around it too. I'm like, wow, it's like, but it's. I mean, you look at the results. It's definitely what's happened. That they're still very good, but they're not Brazil. Like, they're not like epic good like the use that they had been.
Right.
And so it's
right. They're not Ronaldo or Ronaldinho.
Yeah.
Brazil.
Yeah. So just something that really struck.
Or even Neymar.
Oh yeah, Neymar. That's true. Very, very much so. Like. So that really stuck with me looking at this tournament, and it's kind of, to be honest with you, I was going through each of these matchups as it was happening. I was like, I definitely didn't trust them. was wild. Like, I was like, yeah, you know what? I don't feel like I'm gonna take the money line or whatever because like I don't know. This is Copa is the best of the best in South America. Plus, also now the best of the best in the rest of America too. So it's not gonna. None of these games are necessarily going to be a cakewalk. Um, I don't have a lot on Chile. I thought Chile had such a great run a few years ago. If you remember that Copa, what a enormous like tournament that was when they beat out Argentina in the final. Just an epic game too. Like, cause like it went down to the penalties, and then Messi that year kicked the ball way wide. Like, who could forget that? But you know, they didn't make it out of group play, which is disappointing to me personally. But
Canada was the surprise in that group.
Yes. Oh yes.
So Canada is coached by Jesse March, an American who was up for the U.S. job, and nobody's really talking about what happened there because March always seemed like a more qualified candidate than Berhalter. Like March has coached in Germany, he's coached in England, and he wanted the U.S. job and didn't get it. And the Canada job opened, and he went up there. And Canada didn't play great, but you know what you do? You find your way out of the group. That's what you do in group play. You look to find your way out, and Canada did that. So kudos to them.
Big time kudos, absolutely. And from there, they took that moment and seized it. We'll get into that later when we get to the knockout stages. Like, they were a great story in this year's Copa. So yeah, I mean, a lot of the familiar faces get out of these other groups. I mentioned Mexico just didn't, particularly on offense. Their just offense was just trash this year. It just wasn't good. Like, they have nobody that scares anybody. So, so coming out of the Group B, you had Venezuela and Ecuador. Ecuador's always a player. Like, they're always like kind of good. They're pretty good. Like they're decent a lot of the time. So, nothing to report there. Interesting that Jamaica didn't really do much this year, though, because Jamaica tends to. Well, maybe that's more for Gold Cup. I mean, I'm being a little unfair.
Gold Cup.
Yeah, Jamaica can be pesky in Gold Cup play, but I think here with the stakes raised so much, maybe not so much. So, and then of course we talked about Group C already, Group D, and as well. So that's your group play, and so. In the knockout rounds, we had a lot of the familiar faces, but then we had a couple other ones which were a real surprise. We talked, you mentioned Canada, a very big surprise, and then Panama too. Though Panama was kind of shown the door very quickly by Colombia.
Yeah,
just gives you an idea. It just further reinforces what an embarrassment that loss was by the U.S. My goodness, like that's a team you couldn't beat.
Yeah.
Oh my. So Uruguay beats Brazil in penalties in the quarterfinals. Canada does the same thing against Venezuela. That was a big surprise for sure. But Canada wasn't. Yeah. They weren't backing down. It was really quite a story. And then, wow, like 3 out of the 4 quarterfinal matches went to penalty kicks. That's kind of amazing.
Yeah, Ecuador was pesky against Argentina.
Yeah, absolutely. And so. They took, and even in the penalty shoot, they took them to the limit. They were right there. They could have definitely knocked them out. Like one more kick went in or one more block went down. Very exciting stuff in that round for sure. So I mean, anything else you want to say as far as the quarterfinals?
No, I'm good on that.
Okay, let's head to the semis. So in the semifinals, I thought that I thought Canada would have no chance against Argentina, but I will say they hung in there a lot longer than I expected. That was an really great show of heart there. And then a pretty big upset with Colombia against Uruguay. Wow. Like, that was a real real rock fight. But,
it's that sort of game that makes this sort of tournament, Copa America, it's a different style than the Euros.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Right?
Yeah.
And these matches, like you said, Rock Fight is a perfect description for that. It's intense, it's gritty,
Yeah.
it's fiery. Fans in the crowd. Well, we saw what happened at the end of that
Yeah, that
match.
was rough.
That
That was
was
rough. Yeah.
that was such a mess. But there's so much passion involved with everybody, from the players, the coaches, the fans, that it's a spectacle.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like these matches are a lot more physical too. Like we
Yeah.
saw that with who was it, Mexico versus who, or is it the Panama game versus US? Like they both were really, really physical. Well, US Uruguay was really
U.S.
physical.
I was going to say U.S. Uruguay.
Ooh.
Uruguay was physical.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's something like that stood out to me as well. And it just continued. Like I think we go to the final. Before we get into final, like we were talking about how there was a lot more conversation about how the fields were just not up to par. There were different sizes for different ones, which is allowable. Like they say that there's just a minimum like width that you have to adhere to. I don't remember if they were all on grass. Some of them may have been on field turf. I don't recall. I don't necessarily know if that's bad. Like I think you can play on field turf fine, but
But I don't think the players want to play on field turf.
Yeah, I feel
I
that.
think it's I think it's all grass, and I think these stadiums brought in grass just for this tournament, and a lot of these places, these grass, they're just big squares, and they're planting these big squares to make the entire field, and these squares, they have seams between these
We saw
pods,
Yeah.
or I don't know, lack of a better term, pods of grass,
Yeah.
and it's not ideal.
Nah.
You know, if and it's like one of those things. We want to host these big events. We want to host Copa America. We want to host the World Cup. Well, let's act like the top places in the sport act. Let's bring in real fields. Let's bring in real security. I mean, let's do this stuff right. We come off looking like amateurs, as a host country. Now, some of the other things may not be part of our responsibility, but it all reflects on you as a host, the U.S. as a host. When you can't get these things right, like the field and security,
Yeah.
it's just a bad look all around.
Oh, absolutely right. I mean, when we talk about the melee in at Hard Rock Stadium, that is a very clear failure of the security. It's not just lack of security, but it's bad management and bad infrastructure and just bad planning altogether.
It's bad planning. So here's the thing that I don't understand, or I actually just found out.
Mm-hmm.
Copa America is a CONMEBOL event,
Right.
right? We are a CONCACAF country,
Right.
so it was an outside authority that was handling the event. So they were responsible for all the planning that goes into it, the security, and I think the field surfaces as well. But that's what happens when you, for lack of a better term, delegate that to somebody else, to an outside company. It all comes back and it reflects on you, as I was just saying.
Oh yeah.
And what happened down in Miami was a disgrace.
Yeah.
Events like this. So I'm going to go on my rant now. Events like this, they need to be handled like the Super Bowl.
Yes.
You need to have a number of different perimeters outside these stadiums, because you're getting 80,000 passionate fans into your place. This is something that happened in England at the Euros in 2021. People trying to sneak into the place, into Wembley. So you need to have different levels of perimeters of security and how you allow people to get closer to the stadium. And this seems like this was a foreign idea to everybody involved.
I know.
And even though it was Cannonball who's responsible for this, Hard Rock Stadium, they know the fan base that's coming. You in your security meetings, you say, here's what we need to secure our stadium. And somehow there was a disconnect somewhere, either at Cannonball, with Hard Rock, with whoever they had for security. I don't know, but it was an embarrassment of embarrassments.
Huge embarrassment, and completely preventable from my point of view. Like, it would have been for me, all one would have had to do. I saw the perimeter in the Super Bowl for Las Vegas because I was there the week before, so I saw this perimeter. I literally couldn't even see the stadium because there were so many perimeters to get in. So It's like, that's what you need to do at Hard Rock Stadium. They didn't do anything like that. They should have had like multiple perimeters. They should have checked tickets at every single stage of that before you could even park 100%. The car. Like, what?
They treated it like it was a monster truck show.
100%.
You just open the gates and people come in. No, that's you can't do that.
Absolutely right. This is a huge event, and it's like you said, it's embarrassing that they completely missed it. They totally missed it. Like, you just have to plan that better. Like, just you do your research, if nothing else. Like, look up other events of similar magnitude.
And again, it was supposed to be a test run for the USA going into the World Cup.
Right.
And from everything involved, from the U.S. soccer team to the fields to the security, it wasn't a great test run, and really come out looking poorly after this.
Yeah, it's now, why would they go this route? Is it because they were trying to get cheap on it? I can't speculate that part, but it was very, very poorly. It was
so. I don't know who was responsible for the fields, right? Because you have these NFL stadiums, and is it the owners of this? Is it the stadium management? Is it Cannonball? Is it? I don't know. But you always run into the argument with the NFL teams who play on turf that they don't want to go to grass, and when a place like Giant Stadium has to import grass for soccer events, it doesn't go great.
No.
So I don't know what they're going to do now for the World Cup, because there were a lot of complaints.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm let's go look at this. Actually, we can break this down, because I actually remember thinking that during the group stages of this tournament, like, boy, there's sure a lot of field tour stadia involved in this event. It seems a little peculiar, and surely enough, you look at this. Like, I'll break this down. Arlington, Texas, AT&T Stadium. And there's no question that's a field turf stadium. There's no natural grass in there. Atlanta, same thing. Austin is natural grass. Did you know that Bank of America Stadium now has field turf? And that's also true of NRG Stadium. So, like, 5 out of 6 stadiums that I've just recapped here are normally field turf stadia. So they have to improvise in some level to bring in a natural field turf to natural grass field into play. Same thing with SoFi. Right. SoFi is also field turf. State Farm and Levi's are both natural grass facilities, so they were fine. Arrowhead obviously is still natural grass, but they were fine too. Children's Mercy Park is an MLS stadium, so they're cool. And Allegiant Stadium, but then you have Allegiant Stadium, which is not, which is also regular grass, so that's fine too. Hard Rock Stadium is regular grass too. Orlando was solid too, because like they're an MLS. That's an MLS facility. So, but that's a lot. Like, that's like at least 60%, if not 70% of their stadia that had to make concessions in order to make a field to make grass happen. And I'm like, honestly, I mean, it does speak to the NFL too. Like, the NFL needs to stop doing. I mean, I'm actually not happy with the NFL letting all their stadia go to field turf either, because it just means more injuries, and but whatever. But
Yeah.
you get the idea. Like,
Yeah. But also, I don't know if you heard the rant of Marcel Bielsa, the Uruguayan coach. He was even complaining about the training facilities where Uruguay would go practice, that those weren't up to par, and complaining that Bolivia had a tough time getting on their field. And it's like, I keep saying this, like, what are we doing here? This is supposed to be the top tournament in the region, and you can't get anything right.
it's unfortunate. It was a disaster. I mean, from the logistical standpoint, it was a disaster. It was just really, really disappointing in a lot of ways, because the setup was really great on as far as the teams were concerned. That's just the thing. I mean, you claim to be such a big country, and you can't put together an event like this. Like, that's just a huge fail for sure.
Yeah.
It kind of just shows you how good these teams are, that they were still able to put together a good tournament despite all that.
Yeah.
And it wound up being a good final, and we've already covered the ticket situation in depth. So if we get to the final itself, Argentina and Colombia, wow! Now this was a great game. I thought this went really well. Colombia had so many chances to score in this game, and that definitely came back to bite them, because if they couldn't even get like one to go in, if they did, I think the whole thing would have been different. They played really well in this game, and so did Argentina for that matter. And it was unfortunate. It was really sad that Messi got hurt and had to leave, but his teammates picked him up. Martinez got the goal in the extra time.
Yeah.
Parcells, let's get your thoughts
too. Arguably, Colombia was the better team in this match.
Yeah, I would say that
right?
too. Yeah,
the more chances and whatnot. But the thing about Argentina is that they just find a way to win.
Yeah.
They just win, and for them to pull off the double of winning the World Cup and then coming right back and winning Copa America was terrific. And Lautaro Martinez, who scored the game-winning goal, I think he had 5 goals in the tournament, and he won the Golden Boot, and he came off the bench in the championship game, which is amazing. The guy's so talented.
Yep.
But yeah, they just know how to win.
Yeah, they really do. Like, you got to give them all the credit in the world. I mean, that's a gritty effort on their part to come out of that and still come out with a victory. Like, that is definitely and then you lose your best player in the middle of that. Like, you still and you come out of that with a win. Like, that's impressive. That's a lot of adversity. First, like, dealing number one.
Sure.
I could tell that there were more Colombia fans in the stands than there were Argentina fans. Like, that seemed. Did you feel the same? I mean, it looked like it. It looked like it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
So you had that, and then you had the match delayed by 75 minutes because of all that nonsense with the security. Yeah. So, and then you had like a 10 to 15 minute halftime show by Shakira, which was great, which was really good. But and so that's a lot, like, to come out of that, and then you don't even have a lead until like the end, until well into extra time. I mean, losing your best player. And then getting all the scoring chances by Colombia. That goalie, by the way, Argentina's goalie, was fantastic. Like, that takes guts.
Yeah, I mean, Martinez.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's terrific.
Yeah. He was good. He really was. He really was. So, just a signature win for that club, for that country. Like, just a huge get. Boy, they really earned it this time. Like, it was just an incredible game. So, any other thoughts on that game?
No, just hope Messi's doing okay. I haven't heard anything on him about his injury or anything. Have you seen anything on that?
No, I haven't. I mean, it's hard to say at this point what it could be. I mean, I'm thinking like maybe it's a muscle tear, or it wasn't. Some people said hamstring initially, but I think it's more on the ankle. So I feel like it's more tendon.
Yeah, I thought it was an ankle or foot that it was.
Yeah. So we'll find out more about that soon, I'm sure, because that's significant. I
Yeah.
think his next season, wherever he's at now, I think is it Miami MLS still or
Yeah, Inter Miami.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was the other half
Yeah,
of
and
that.
they're in the middle of their season right now.
Oh wow. So yeah, that's a significant story. Yeah, I felt bad for Messi there too, for that exact reason, because he's in Miami, like they love him there, and it was like that was kind of cool to see, but his teammates took it home, and that's always a cool thing, and with such a big team like Argentina, that even if you lose a guy like that, the rest of your team can pick you up. So
Yeah.
just a great ending. Overcoming all of that and still having a really great final, a great story, a great comeback to an extent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what more can you say about Argentina?
Yeah, and it's great, but both of these tournaments end, and right when they end, the club teams start reporting to their training centers for the start of their season. Manchester United just played an exhibition match yesterday or the day before. I can't remember which one. So all the guys who played in the Euros and the Copa will like go on a break on their own. They'll go on their holiday for a few weeks, maybe not a month, but for about 2 weeks or so, and then they'll be back with their club teams, getting ready for the season. And like you started this out with, Manchester United coming to California.
Yeah, that's exciting. Very tempting to look into tickets. I did look at the prices this afternoon. Not horrible. Like if you just want to be in the building, you can do it for under $150. So it can be done.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a raucous crowd for real. Like there are so many fans of both clubs out here. Like it's gonna be insane.
Yeah, we went last year when they played Arsenal at MetLife.
Mm-hmm.
It was a great time.
Love it.
It was so much fun.
I love it. Love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool venue for that. I do think that they'll do a better job with the field for that game, because I think different people are organizing it, so they'll work something out. I think. I just don't know why they didn't. So if I didn't just have a grass field in the first place, like I think that would have been better. I don't really know why they had to go with field turf. Like completely unnecessary decision, but so it was. Okay. Anything else you want to get? Now we did have the rumblings about the USMNT coach. Gareth Southgate is a candidate. Can you did you get a kick out of that when you saw that?
Yeah, I don't see him going from England to the U.S. I think people are just throwing names out right now.
Yeah.
And hoping they're an option. We saw stuff about Jurgen Klopp, who just retired from Liverpool. He had spent some time in the U.S. and he has ties. Liverpool owned by Fenway Sports Group. So he always enjoys his time here, but he's already come out to say that he's not ready to take another job right now. So I don't know who's going to be involved. People are talking about Steve Cherundolo, he coaches LA and MLS. But they say he's probably the best coach right now, but it's a bit of an uninspired hiring.
Yeah.
For the U.S. So we'll just have to see, but they really have to make this one count.
Yeah, this is a big moment. It's a critical time to hire a coach. So it's not going to be easy, because as we were talking about, like a lot of the best candidates are probably already accounted for, and they don't have the greatest leverage right now. Like that's a tough resume point. Well, we sucked at Copa America on our own soil.
Right. Right. We're a disaster right now. Come bail us out.
Some people might heed the call, but it's just not going to give you much of a pool to work with. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, too bad. All right, well, I think that's about it. We've covered everything here. Any other final thoughts? Anything else you want to get into before we go?
No, I think I'm good. Thanks for having me on the Sandwich Corner.
Got it.
First time.
Parcells. It's a beautiful. Well, it is and it isn't. Like, this is the old Ditkow show too, so like it's the same
Yeah.
show, but it's the first time you've been on it when it was since the rebranding. So it's a privilege to have you here. It's really great to have you. Yeah.
Yeah. Anytime you need me for anything, I'm here.
You got it, Parcells. Have a good rest of your night. It's really great to catch up with you again, and all the best to you and yours.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Same.
You bet. That's Parcells. Thank you so much, my friend. So good to see you again. That really was great. Like, y'all, give it up for our friend Parcells falling out. Good times. Like, really, really good stuff. So and that's it for us tonight. If you're watching live, we'll be back on Twitch in a few minutes, and I'll be playing The Adventures of Lolo. That'd be really fun. Classic game from the NES. And if you miss any part of this program and you're watching on YouTube, you can catch the replay on our YouTube page. Look for Davey's Eating a Sandwich and locate the Sandwich Corner playlist, and you'll find all our episodes of this podcast there. And if for those of you who are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Amazon or any other podcast player of choice, you can find our podcast here. Find the Sandwich Corner in the list of podcasts, and make sure to subscribe if you want more content just like this, covering all the sports events and other things throughout the universe. This has been a lot of fun. Appreciate you being here. I'm Dave Medina. You know me as Davey's Eating a Sandwich. You can follow me on just about every platform except for Threads and X. And I say goodnight. We'll see you over on Twitch in a few minutes if you're watching live. Otherwise, we'll see you next time.